And Terry, I'm one of the co-chairs for Kapable leadership team. Yay! We have an awesome presentation for you guys today. Thank you so much for being in the room. We also have several people dialed in via Skype. Special call out to our new chapters. So we have a chapter at GBS in Grand Rapids, as well as our Arkansas office for the Walmart team down in Arkansas. So we're excited to have them on the line. As you know, for Kapable, we have a speaker series, usually once or twice a year, really driving home the message of turning impossible into I'm possible. And so we have Austin Hatch here today. He's going to tell you his story. We're excited to have him here. I certainly don't want to steal any of his thunder, so if you guys can roll the clip, and we're going to have a brief introduction for Austin, and then he will come up with his presentation.
My hope was to be involved in this program a little differently than I have been these past 4 years. But I think given the circumstances especially, what I've been able to do, I've been able to be as much a part of the team, as my abilities allow. My goal is to be the best. I don't know if you want to call me a practice player, a role player, because I guess I have a role. I want to be the best person who has ever filled the role that I'm filling as an encourager, a motivator, an inspirer. I want to be the best person to ever fill that role in the history of college basketball. I really believe Michigan is where I'm supposed to be. I've always had a dream of playing basketball in Michigan. My mom went here. Both my grandpas went here. My dad did research here before going to medical school. So my time at Michigan has been a dream come true. And my time at the basketball program has been a dream come true. But finding the girl of my dreams, finding my wife, my soon-to-be wife at Michigan is at the top of the list.
So my story of how we met is probably a little different than how his story of how we met goes.
We met on October 26, 2014 in political science, poli-sci 101.
I walked in 10 minutes late to the class, and I saw this guy kind of flagging me down and pointing at an open seat next to him.
Didn't pay much attention to the lecture that day. Probably should have.
We really hit it off, and
2.5 years later, I asked him to marry me.
When I started dating Austin, his grandpa mentioned that he went to Michigan, and he said I lived in the same house as a guy named Dave Cole. And so then I realized, okay, so that's my grandpa you just referenced. And you lived with my grandpa that fall. Our grandpas saw each other and connected for the first time in 51 years since graduation at Michigan. It's just one of those things you can't make up.
I really believe Michigan is where I'm supposed to be. I don't think it's an accident that I committed to a place like Michigan 9 days before my life changed.
I knew who he was when he asked me to sit by him in class. His story was pretty public, and he had just committed to Michigan.
We all know Austin's story, the survivor of 2 fatal plane crashes. After losing a brother, a sister, and his mother in a 2003 plane crash, then losing his stepmother and father. In June of 2011, Austin suffered broken ribs and brain trauma that caused a medically induced coma for weeks.
My mom was like, we just need to pray for him and his family. And it's crazy to think that at this point, I'm a sophomore in high school. I'm not yet committed to Michigan. Austin is a stranger who is just hanging to life by a thread. And it's just crazy to think that I was praying for my future husband.
Austin, after 3 years of recovery, is here in Ann Arbor as a freshman for this team, and certainly
we were not sure whether he would be able to come all the way back. We were very hopeful that he could. And then in the first scrimmages, I could see it was going to be a longer road back than we thought. But this was a no-brainer. You make a promise to someone, and you're going to give them a scholarship. You're going to honor that.
I've been a member of the team, obviously, but I'm ineligible to play. I don't take my role lightly, even though it may not seem that significant. It doesn't show up on the stat sheet. And no one's going to see Austin Hatch. You don't get a stat for encouraging guys. You don't get a stat for you know, motivating guys to work harder. There's no, like, it's not going to show up on the stat sheet. No one knows what I'm doing. And that, I mean, that doesn't really matter. Maybe I'm not doing anything. Maybe it's just my teammates say that just to make me feel good. I don't know.
There's no question what he's added to this team. I think that this is all part of why we really coach, to be thrown into these situations where we can make not an impact in a game, an impact for life.
Coach Beeline asked me if I wanted to warm up on senior night, and I was like I almost didn't think. Like I was like what do you mean?
Walking Austin out on senior night was very special. And I'm, of course, very honored that he asked me to walk with him along with his grandparents, but it should have been his parents.
This was one that I really wanted Austin to be a part of. So he said, let's petition the Big Ten, see if we can put him, you know, in a uniform, have him warm up, do everything short of playing in the game. So Austin could experience what he really deserved, but life threw different challenges at him, and he just adapted.
Michigan is a place that prides itself on family, and Austin had a family within the program. He always will. You come to a place like Michigan, and he thought he was coming here, you know, for basketball, and I thought I was coming here for volleyball. And at the end of the day, you realize that that's just a small part of it, and it's the relationships that you take forward with you.
This whole 4 years has been as unique and gratifying as you could ever imagine. Because if we go back to those days in the hospital, where I at that time, I didn't even know that he would ever be able to get a Michigan degree, let alone have a senior night.
Obviously, the past few chapters of my life have been very public, and you know, it's a story. It gets people's attention, and that's great. And hopefully, I've been able to inspire other people, you know, by how I've responded to the adversity that I've faced. But this is only the beginning of my story. Thank you all very much. I greatly appreciate it. Can everyone hear me okay? Good deal, good deal. So thanks for the opportunity to be here. Thank you to Jillian and the rest of the team for giving me this opportunity. It's truly an honor and a privilege. As you saw in the video, so I've had a couple tough events in my life. The first one wasn't really mentioned, but I was involved in a plane crash when I was 8 years old that claimed the lives of my mom, my sister, and my brother, tragically. And then my dad and I survived, but we're both injured pretty bad. And then 8 years later, we were involved in another plane crash that took the life of my dad and my second mom. I never really used the term stepmom. And then I was injured. I almost lost my life. I was in a coma for 2 months and had a bunch of broken bones and a traumatic head injury, traumatic brain injury, and almost you know, had my life taken again. But fortunately, I survived. And you know, obviously, you know, life has presented me with some adversity, but at the same time, I think that it's also presented me with an opportunity. It's presented me with an opportunity to overcome the adversity. It's presented me with an opportunity to find a way to overcome it, to get better because of it. And I think that, you know, most of us in the room we don't usually have control over the adversity that we face. Most of us, I wouldn't think any of us, wish adversity on ourselves or on anyone else for that matter. But I think that we always have complete control over how we choose to respond. And I think that what we associate adversity with will play a large role in how we choose to deal with it, how we decide to deal with it. You know, generally speaking, I think that our response to the adversity, to any adversity, whether it's a plane crash that almost took my life or it's something, you know, it's something maybe a little less significant. As far as I'm concerned, adversity is adversity. I don't think that just because I went through something very tragic and traumatic and severe, I think we can approach every form of adversity we face the same way. So, you know, how do we overcome it? Why do we overcome it? Why do some people and some organizations overcome things and achieve their goals despite the adversity and others don't? Perhaps a better question is why is it and how is it that some people and some organizations as well not only overcome adversity, but find ways to use adversity as a means to get better, find ways to use it as a tool to learn things that they wouldn't have learned otherwise. I think there are probably a few answers to that question, and I'll go into those in a few minutes. But I think more than anything, that adversity is going to come. That big one is going to come. You know, fortunately and unfortunately, you know, I faced a big one already, a couple of big ones already, and I think that if we need to live our lives, we need to build our lives in a way that will prepare us to survive the big one. I'm not saying live our lives in fear. Oh man, maybe the big one's going to come tomorrow. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying we need everything we do every single day. We need to establish character. We need to build our character so that when that big one comes, you know, okay, here's another challenge. Here's a big challenge, but I've already overcome things. I've already handled adversity, the smaller forms of adversity, this way. And so now that I have this big one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the same thing that I've done in the smaller forms too, because if I learn what I've learned from the adversity that I face today, the tough clients, the tough meetings, you know, the market conditions, you know, maybe there's obviously Kellogg is the best cereal company in the world, right? But you know what? There's probably going to be other challenges, other competitors too. Maybe there's a new competitor that comes in the market and targets a different segment of the population that that we didn't know existed. Maybe there's, you know, I don't know what the challenge is, but maybe there's some challenge that presents itself that we can't control, but we always have complete control over how we choose to respond. And I think that if we live our lives in such a way that we focus more on the response than we do on the adversity or the challenge itself, I think that's one way to help prepare our lives for the big one. So an example of the big one, so Hurricane Michael, you guys might remember, hit Mexico Beach in Florida last fall, I think maybe October, and every house on the beach was destroyed, was flattened, except for this one house you'll see in the picture. And so as soon as the local media and some of the national media too heard about this, they got in touch with the homeowners and tried to figure out, you know, why did your house remain standing when every other house on the beach was flattened? Why is it that your house, yeah, obviously there's a little bit of damage to the exterior, but the structure remained standing when every other house on the beach was destroyed? And the homeowners said they had a 20-page document of every construction decision they made when they were building the house. And the number one reason why that house remained standing despite the storm is because they dug down 40 feet to get to a foundation of solid rock. They built the house on a foundation of solid rock. And the homeowner said, we built this house to survive the biggest storm that may ever come. They didn't know it was going to come. And again, they wouldn't build that house. Oh yeah, we're going to build this house, but yeah, we better make sure because this storm is going to come. Obviously, they don't build it in fear. They don't do that out of fear. But you just do that. It's just a smart thing to do. And I think for us as people, individuals, as an organization, I think it's smart for us all to use the adversity that we face today to help us build our foundation so that we can survive the big one whenever it comes. Hopefully it doesn't come, but if it does, I think it's better to be prepared for the big one to come. And hopefully we don't need to have that solid foundation. Hopefully the big one never comes, but if it does, it's better to be prepared for it. So my wife is she's a big time overpacker. Any of the other ladies or husbands, are your wives big time overpackers too? Cool. So her thing is, it's better to have something and not need it than it is to need it and not have it, right? Is that what all the ladies think too, right? Okay. And so I think the same is true with building our foundation and building our lives, building our character, building our whatever you want to say, building our foundation. It's better to have a foundation that's very strong and that would be able to withstand a big one, but hopefully the big one never comes. It's better to have that rock solid foundation and not actually need it than it is to need it
and not have it. Like if you're on a road trip and ladies, if you forget an outfit, like, I mean, it's like devastating, right? I know that's how it is for my wife. So, but all that aside, I think we got to build our lives in such a way that's going to prepare us for the big one. And hopefully it never comes, but it's better to be prepared for it and not need it than it is to need it and not have it. So one of the ways to build our lives for the big one is with grit. One of the ways to strengthen the foundations of our houses, of our lives every single day is with grit. A lot of people have talked about grit recently. Angela Duckworth, one of the really smart lady from Michigan of the East Coast, the University of Pennsylvania. So I understand I was talking to Jillian this morning. So we're kind of equidistant from East Lansing and Ann Arbor, right? So just real quick, by show of hands, how many Wolverines do we have in the audience? Okay, and Spartans. Okay. So it's about 50-50. Okay, that's all right. Coach Izzo has done some great things at Michigan State. He's obviously one of the best coaches ever. Very successful, and I've got a lot of admiration for what he's done. And I'll talk something about him, a little story from him in a little while. But I think that if we have grit, I think we can overcome anything we put our minds to. At Michigan, we always talked about how it's the gritty teams that are successful. It's the gritty teams that make those plays that may not show up on the stat sheet. You don't may not see whoever the guys were on the team that are playing Karis LeVert, Duncan Robinson, Mo Wagner, any of those guys. You don't get a stat for diving on the floor for a loose ball. You don't get a stat for taking charges. You don't get a stat for always being in the right position on defense. You don't get a stat for those things, but they're critical. Those are critical things to being successful in basketball, critical things to winning games. And I think there are those types of things we got to do in business too. There are always being prepared, being the best at filling our roles to the best of our ability. I would have loved to be able to have the career at Michigan that I hope to. Would have loved to be able to play on the court with my guys and play defense, playing the big games against Michigan State, especially Michigan State, and Michigan State, Ohio State, Indiana, Wisconsin. That would have been awesome. But since I couldn't, I made it a priority to be a star in my role and fill my role to the best of my ability. Because my thought was, if I could fill my role 1% better, maybe that would help my teammates who are playing on the court fill their roles 1% better too. And so part of that is grit's a part of that too. And I think the first component to grit is being driven by a greater purpose. Working for the team, working for the we, working for something bigger than ourselves. Because I think if we're doing anything just for ourselves, it's pretty likely that at a certain point in life we're going to face some form of adversity and opposition that may cause us to give up unless we have because we don't have a driving force for why we do what we do. If we're working just for ourselves, we're probably going to face something. I don't need to overcome this. It's not that big of a deal. I'm working just for myself. It would have been nice if I could have contributed to the team, but since I'm not able to contribute in the way I thought, I might as well. It's not worth the effort. But if we're working for the team, if we're working for the we, the company, the organization, whatever your bigger purpose is, our families, our friends, if we're working for something bigger than ourselves, we'll find a way to overcome that adversity. We'll find a way to use, not only will we find a way to overcome the adversity, but I also think we'll find a way to use the adversity that we faced, that we didn't wish on ourselves or on anyone else for that matter, but we'll find a way to use that adversity as a means to get better. I think, and quite frankly, I think that if we choose to do that, if we make the decision to use the adversity that we'll face as a means to get better, I think that's the source of a competitive advantage, because more than likely, I would guess the other companies, whether it's cereal companies, other pizza companies, they're not using the adversity that they face as a means to get better. They're not using the adversity that they'll inevitably face as learning opportunities. So if we can use something to our advantage that other organizations that's a disadvantage to other organizations, I think that's a competitive advantage, and that's where we can set ourselves apart. So I think the first component of grit is working for a greater purpose and working for something bigger than ourselves, because if we're working just for ourselves, any one of us as individuals or on teams, if you're playing just for yourself, or if you're doing it just for yourself, you're probably going to face some form of adversity that'll cause you to give up, because it'll be difficult and inconvenient, and I don't have a driving force behind why I do what I do, because I'm working this for me, and that's not a big enough reason to do what it takes to overcome this adversity that I'm facing. So first component to grit is working for a greater purpose. When we have that greater purpose, that drives us to have the growth mindset. The growth mindset believes that every adversity is an opportunity. The growth mindset believes that, yeah, even when we inevitably fall short at something, even when we inevitably fail at something, the growth mindset never believes failure is a permanent condition. Yeah, this happened to me, and I couldn't control this, but I'm going to find a way to grow from it. Like I was mentioning a few minutes ago, with using adversity as a means to get better, adversity is an inevitable part of life, right? There's nothing. More adversity is going to come tomorrow for all of us. I've faced a couple big ones already, but that doesn't mean my life is going to be smooth sailing from here on out. There's going to be more adversity every day for the rest of our lives, and it would make sense to use something that's inevitably a part of life. It would make sense to use that as an opportunity to learn and grow and get better. Whereas if you have that fixed mindset, Dr. Carol Dweck at one of the missions of the West Coast at Stanford, she said that the fixed mindset believes that we're a product of circumstances. We're a product. The fixed mindset believes we're a product of things that happen to us. We're not the product of how we choose to respond. Our talent, our abilities are fixed. They're innate. We're born with a certain level of ability. We can't get better. We can't grow. But if you have that growth mindset, you can always get better. You can always use every adversity and every opportunity as a means to get better. You take advantage of every opportunity to get better. And I think that if you have that growth mindset, I think that's also a source of a competitive advantage too, because I don't think it's common in companies across the country to use adversity as opportunities to learn and say, okay, here's a challenge, so we're going to overcome this. It's not if we overcome this, but it's when. For me, when I was in a hospital bed in a coma, and I woke up from the coma, I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't really do anything. I said, okay, yeah, so obviously I didn't have control over that. I didn't have direct control over that, but I knew I had complete control over how I chose to respond. And it's not if I overcome this, it's when, because I'm going to work too hard, I'm going to be too diligent, I'm going to pay attention to detail, I'm going to do all the little things it takes to get better. I'm not just going to do the big things. Like learning how to walk again was a big thing. Learning how to shoot a basketball again was a big thing. But I'm gonna do those little things to get 1% better, maybe 0.1% better. And those things over the long term are going to make a big difference. So I think if we have that growth mindset, we'll make the decision to prioritize our response to the adversity rather than focus on the adversity itself, because it would make sense. So we have a few Michigan students in here, right? Show of hands, and Michigan grads too. Great. Okay. So Econ 101. Right? It was a prereq for my major, org studies. I think we have org studies, right? Great. I feel right at home. But yeah, so Econ 101, it doesn't make sense. The opportunity cost of investing your time in things over which you have no control doesn't make sense, because if you can't control it, why would you pay attention to it? But it's so easy. How easy is it to get caught up in things over which we have no control, rather than spend that same energy that we would spend over things over which we have no control? Why wouldn't we put that towards things over which we have control? I think, and Coach Wooden said that if we spend too much time focusing on the things over which we have no control, it will adversely affect those things over which we have control. And that's just what I was saying. I mean, if we invest our time in things that we can't really do much about, the market conditions, or spend time. Obviously, we got to study what the competitors are doing, but why can't, like at Michigan, every practice, yeah, we would spend time doing on what the other teams are going to do too, but we would spend the majority of our time on what we do. We would become masters at our offense, masters at our defense, masters at every play that we would run. So that, because if we master our stuff, yes, you have to worry about the competitors too. You got to worry about your opponents. But if we master what we did, then everything else would take care of itself. The wins and losses would take care of themselves. So, and if we have that growth mindset, well, yeah, you know what? Maybe we're not where we want to be today. But we know if we work hard enough for long enough, there's no doubt we'll get there tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. So, the first component of grit, in my opinion, is the growth mindset. The second component of grit is the decision to be resilient. As I mentioned, we're not a product of our circumstances, we're the product of how we choose to respond. I think we can all make the decision to be resilient in the face of adversity. It's not always, sometimes it's easier to pay attention to the adversity, pay attention to that big one. Hopefully it never comes, but it's easy to pay attention, to get caught up and focus on that. But I think we should all make the decision to pay more attention to our response, to focus on our response to the adversity, because as I mentioned in the Econ 101 example a few minutes ago, we can't control the things that happen to us, generally speaking. You know, so yes, there are some things we do have control over, but the majority of the adversity we don't wish on ourselves or on anyone else. So if the adversity is part of life, why wouldn't let's focus our time on the things over which we have control, which is our response, our attitude, our work ethic, things like that. And so for me, I woke up from the coma. I couldn't really do much. You know, I had to relearn how to do everything. I had to have people take care of me, help me eat, do everything, and help take care of myself. But I had this goal of getting to Michigan. I knew I had Michigan in my future. Coach Beyond came to see me in the hospital and told me, and said, Austin, I can't wait to coach you someday. You know, whenever you're able to get to Michigan, whether it's next year, 2 years, 3 years, whenever you're able to get to Michigan, I can't wait to coach you. First of all, I mean, it says a lot about Coach Beyond, right? I mean, the fact that he maintained his commitment despite the change in our circumstances. I'll talk about that more in a few minutes as well. But I think that if we have that goal, if we have something that we're working towards, if we're working for something bigger than ourselves, working for a goal, working for somewhere we want to be in the future, I think that'll drive us to have the growth mindset. That'll drive us to have that'll drive us to make the decision to be resilient in the face of adversity. It'll drive us to make the decision to prioritize our response to the adversity rather than spend time and energy focusing on the adversity itself. So I think that the decision to be resilient is a decision we can all make. We all face different challenges. We all face challenges of our own, and I don't think we have any business comparing our struggles to the struggles of other people in the organization or other people's struggles in general. But I think that we can all make the decision to prioritize our response to the adversity rather than focus on the adversity itself, and we can all make the decision to invest our time and energy in the response to adversity rather than the adversity itself. The third component to grit, in my opinion, is having a high level of integrity. Most people think that, you know, obviously integrity is being honest and doing the right thing when no one is looking. Of course, that's true. But I think that, especially in the context of overcoming any challenge, any form of adversity, whether it's a plane crash, whether it's a tough climb, maybe it's something with your family, getting in a fight with your siblings or your parents or whatever it may be. You know, a group project at school is more difficult than you thought. There are unforeseen challenges that arise in the business or at school or whatever it may be. I think integrity is about staying true to what we said we would do, especially when our circumstances change. And if we're working for a greater purpose, we're working for something bigger than ourselves, I think we're much more likely to always follow through. The integrity I'm talking about is following through on our commitments even when our circumstances change. So my physical therapist in Chicago at the RIC, I was there for 3 months. Learned, like, really, that's where I got back on my feet, so to speak, learned how to live life again after my coma. My physical therapist, Michael Klonowski, an amazing guy, changed the course of my life. And he was the one that helped me, you know, get to the point of where Michigan was even a remote possibility. I think that it's so important to have people like that in our lives, people who make things, not people just who do so much for us, but people who want to see us succeed almost as bad as we want to succeed too. It's very important to have those mentors and have those role models in our lives. And so Michael, my physical therapist, I would ask him in the morning when he would get to the hospital, and we would do our morning PT session, practice walking and balance and stuff like that. And I would say, hey, Michael, can we get a little extra work in later? I know you got to go home, eat dinner with your family, but is there any way that you could stay after hours a little bit to get a little extra work in with me? Because I'm in a tough situation right now. Obviously, you know, I was in a coma, and I'm learning how to walk again, and I have this lofty goal of getting to Michigan. And I'm going to need a little help along the way. I'm not going to be able to do it on my own. I'm going to need some help because I got a long way to go. And he would say, of course, I'm happy. I'm going to be more than happy to help you do a little extra work, get a little bit better. I think if you think about it, I think we can all give a little extra, maybe 1% extra. I'm not saying, you know, do double what we're currently doing. Most of it, I'm sure you guys are all great at your jobs. But I think we can all just give a little bit more. And so Michael I would ask him in the morning, and keep in mind, he had 3 young girls at home at the time. This was 2011. He had 3 young girls at home, was newly married, and obviously he wanted to get home to them. And I'm not saying he chose me over them. I'm just saying he stayed after and helped me get better because it's what the team needed at that time. And I think that we all, I think we don't have to, but I think it's very effective if we all think about the team first, think about the we first. What can we do to help our coworkers? What can we do to help the we succeed, rather than just focus on helping the me succeed too? And the great thing is, when we focus on the we, the me will succeed too. So I need you guys to do me a favor. Everyone, put both hands straight up in the air. Is that as high as you can? Good. Okay. Now, that's as high as you can? All right. Let's go 1 inch higher. Okay. Pretty much everyone's hands moved up a little bit more. So see, my point is when we think we've given everything, we have a little bit more left in the tank, right? And there's something else I've heard recently. So the Navy SEALs, obviously some of the most elite warriors in the world, right? They have there's this rule called the 40% rule, which is in their, when they're training BUDS, which is like the Navy SEAL training camp, and when the Navy SEALs think they're done, they think they've given everything they have, they say, yeah, you feel exhausted, but you actually still have 40% left in the tank. So, I mean, I think that obviously that's an extreme situation, an extreme case. But I think that even when we think we've given everything we have, I think we can all give a little bit extra. And I'm not saying we got to change the world by just giving a little extra. Just think about it. If we all gave 1% more to everything we did every single day, just 1%, maybe that's the equivalent of an extra 10 minutes on something, or an extra whatever it may be, over the long term. So if you think about it, an extra 10 minutes a day of attention, 10 minutes more focus on a project, on this or that, 10 minutes a day, it's 50 minutes a week, and there's 250 work days a year. So if you figure 10 minutes a day times 250, what's that? Is that 2,500? Yeah, right? 2,500. Is that 2,500? Yeah, I think. So, yeah, you would think that a Michigan graduate would be able to do that quick, but yeah, my math skills are kind of on the back burner right now. But yeah, so if you think about it, if we just give 10 more minutes a day, maybe that's not 10 more minutes of time. Maybe that's just being 1% more focused on something that equates to about 10 minutes. And think about it may not make a difference in 1 week, but think about the difference it makes in the long term. I know I could do that at Domino's. There are things that I have to do. I don't have to. There are things that I get to do at Domino's. I try to shift my focus from I have to I get to. And there are things that I get to do at Domino's that sometimes are a little bit, I feel like this is the arrogance in a Michigan graduate. Sorry, most of us are humble. And I like to think I'm humble too, for the most part. But sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit above it. I'm a little bit above some of the work that I do. I shouldn't be doing this. I mean, I should be. I see these senior guys. I'm like, man, I want to be there. But then I got to remember, all those guys started right where I am too, and I got to think how blessed I am to have the job that I do at Domino's right out of college, and I got to remember that, man. Okay, so I think I'm overqualified for this particular job, and right now I might be the only person in the organization who thinks so. Maybe there are other people who recognize it too, but probably not. It's probably only me that thinks I'm overqualified. So if I absolutely crush the role that I'm currently in, I would think that I'll get an opportunity to play at the next level, right? If I crush the role that I'm in high school, if the coaches at the next level, like the masters of the next level, see me play, and they're like, oh, if he would be better suited to play at the next level, I'll probably get an opportunity. I mean, if you're good enough, they'll find you, right? The coaches, the leaders of the company, and that's my thing. If I prove that I'm good enough at the role that I'm currently filling, I don't think there's any way that I can't get promoted. I'm not saying I'm not hungry for a promotion, man. I would love one, right? I think we all would. We all would. But if we just fill the role that we're currently filling better than it's ever been filled in the history of people who filled this role at Kellogg or Domino's, I think there's no way that we can't move up to the next level. And it's, Coach Beeline would say every single day, this is going to be the best practice, the best film session, the best lift, the best walkthrough that's ever been done in the history of walkthroughs or film sessions or practices. And if you do the best, if you do your very, very best every single day, eventually, I'd like to think you're gonna like where you end up. And part of that is mastering the fundamentals. So at Michigan, you would think that college athletes in the Big Ten don't need to spend time passing the ball, dribbling the ball, doing ball handling. But we would do passing drills every single day to pass the ball on the seams, so that when guys would catch to shoot it, it would be on the seams already, and they wouldn't have to flip the ball around to get their hands on the seams. And there's a reason that Michigan, when Coach Biena was there at least, was one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country too. Because that's a little part. Obviously, you got to recruit guys that can shoot too, but just doing those little things that help. Maybe that makes a 1% difference. Not having to shuffle the ball around in your hands. Maybe that makes a 1% difference in the game. A lot of games in the Big Ten are decided by 1 point or 2 points. And I think that if we practice those little things, if we practice passing, always catching the ball clean, and practice ball handling, maybe we won't turn the ball over in the game so much. And if we have one or two more possessions in a game than the other team because we don't turn the ball over, that could be the difference between winning and losing too, right? So I think we got to master the fundamentals. Obviously, there are more glamorous things to do too in basketball. Running those plays and practicing shooting threes and that's all fun too. And we did all that too. But I think it all comes back to mastering the fundamentals. And if we get the fundamentals right, I think eventually everything else will take care of itself. So I think that with a high level of integrity, we not only do we prioritize the little things, but we make it a priority to follow through on our commitments, to always do what we said we would do, especially when we have a change in our circumstances. Apologize. So I'm kind of we're kind of equidistant from East Lansing and Michigan, right? Sorry for the few East Lansing fans that there are. Maybe I should have had an M, and also it would be hard for me to put an S up there. But yeah. So you know what? Yeah. I have integrity. So, anyways, so the team. Bo Schembechler, Michigan State fans may not know him, but he was one of the best coaches ever, right? Obviously, he's a Michigan coach and head coach of Michigan in the 70s and 80s, and he gave a famous the team speech. He said, "We want the Big Ten championship, and we're going to win it as a team." He said, and after a few more minutes, he said, then the way he concluded it, he said, "Everything that you do, you should take into consideration what effect it has on the team." And I think not only is that true in football, in basketball, in sports, but I think it's also true in business, because if what we're doing, everything we do is to help the team, is for that greater purpose, as I started this presentation with. If we're always working for the team, if we're always doing for something bigger than ourselves, I don't think there's any way that the team can't succeed. If we have everyone on the team working to help the team, to the best of their ability, I don't think there's any way that the team won't succeed. And as I mentioned, I would have loved to be on the court playing with my guys, Mo Wagner and Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson and all those guys playing in the big games against State and Wisconsin. But unfortunately, since I couldn't, I took pride in the role that I could fill. Like I said in that video, I want to be the best person that's ever filled the role that I'm filling, as an encourager, a motivator, an inspirer. And it doesn't matter what I didn't need to get credit for. I just wanted to do it because it could help the team. And something else that wasn't mentioned in that video, and I'm not here to blow myself up saying, "Oh, what a great teammate I was." But I will tell you this though, I know none of you guys probably got to see this. I know for a fact none of you guys got to see me in action. But when we would travel on road trips, so we would go play Wisconsin, UCLA, Arizona. Those road games in the warm climates were especially nice in early December. In the non-conference season, going out to Tucson, when you leave here, it's 1 or 2 degrees, maybe 10, and then you get there and you land and it's 75 or 80 at night. So that was a nice little break. But so anyways, on those road trips, I couldn't, the coach was nice enough to include me on the road trips, right? And I would have loved, as I mentioned several times, I would have loved to be able to go on the games and play on the court with my guys. That would have been awesome. But since I couldn't, I made it a priority to be, so the bags so we would take a charter bus from the PDC Chrysler Arena in Ann Arbor where we played. We would take a charter bus from there to the airport, to Willow Run Airport. That's where we flew out of. And the bags wouldn't magically go from the facility to the bus, and then from the bus to the plane. And then when we landed, they wouldn't go from the plane to a bus and from the bus to the hotel either. So, it would have been nice if those bags just magically, teleported from one place to the other. But since they couldn't, okay, here's how I can help the team. If I can unload these bags 1% better, maybe that'll help my guys play 1% better. If I can do it a little bit more quickly, is it quicker or more quickly? It's quicker. It's quicker. Yeah. Yeah. If I can do it quicker, if I can get those bags in the right place at the right time, and make sure everyone's got everything they need. If I can do that a little bit better, maybe that would help my teammates get an extra 5 minutes of sleep at night. Maybe that would help. Maybe that extra 5 minutes of sleep gets them the rest they need to be able to play as hard as they can for one more minute of the game, right? And so, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, maybe it didn't make any difference at all. But I viewed it as significant. I thought it was important, and obviously I would have loved to, have it show up on the stat sheet. Austin Hatch unloaded the bags better than ever this trip. But you know what? Since they didn't, that's okay. And like I said before, like in that video, I'm like, my teammates, like, maybe they just said I was, being a great teammate, a great asset to the team, and helping them just to make me feel good. I don't know, but I think it's nice to get credit for things, but I think we just got to do it because it's what the team needs. Like Michael would stay after with me to help me walk and learn, and help me get in better position to achieve my goal of getting to Michigan. He did that because it's what the team needed, and my time at Michigan, my teammates did so much for me, coaches did so much for me, and I felt this is the least I can do to pay it forward, and help the team here. And I think that, and the same is true at Domino's. There are some things that I got to do sometimes that aren't the most exciting, but if I could do those a little bit better, maybe that would help the more senior leaders of the company make 1% better decisions. Maybe that'll help the other people. And then the other thing about gritty people that I've learned is we all have the ability. You don't have to live by, you don't have to follow everything I've said today, but I think we all have the opportunity to lead by example. There's no way that if we approach things with a growth mindset, if we're always positive, if we view every adversity as opportunity, if we're always encouraging our teammates and helping them be successful and help them fill their roles a little bit better, there's no way that other people in the company won't notice. And I think that conversely, if we're doing things just for ourselves, if we're being selfish and thinking about, me, what can I gain from this? This the team's not doing enough for me, that'll permeate throughout the organization as well. So I think that if we have that team first mentality, it's contagious, and the simple decision to be positive in the face of adversity is contagious to the whole team. So I'd like to thank you all very much for the opportunity. It's an honor and a privilege, and I think we're going to take some questions now. So I would be happy to answer any questions that anyone has. So thank you again for the opportunity. I greatly appreciate it.
Let's start with questions in the room first, and then we'll wait for some to pop up online if we have any.
Hi, Austin. Thank you so much for sharing your inspirational story. That was fantastic. I've read a little bit that your faith was important to you, and I know we're in a business setting, but would you be open to talking a little bit about the role faith has played in your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's my faith has been there the whole time, throughout my whole road to recovery, throughout my whole life, and obviously I've lost a lot in my immediate family and my second mom as well, but my faith's been there and it's not going anywhere. And yeah, I kind of live by the idea that James 1, 2, and 3, consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And I think that, like I said about learning from adversity, it's better. I'm not saying it's better, but you can learn a lot more when things get tough than you do when everything's all good, right? I would love to say that. For the rest of the year, Kellogg, the whole industry, you guys are going to absolutely crush the cereal industry. The competition is going to pose no challenges. But if they do pose challenges, which they inevitably will, why wouldn't we learn from it? And why wouldn't we learn things from the challenges we'll face this year? Maybe that'll help us overcome bigger challenges that we may face next year. And hopefully we don't have to overcome bigger challenges next year, but it's, like I said at the beginning, it's better to be prepared for those bigger challenges and have the tools and resources we would need to overcome the bigger challenges. It's better to have those and not need them than it is to need them and not have them. So I think that, yeah, whatever your bigger purpose is, for me it's faith, it's honoring God, honoring my family in heaven, honoring my now wife, and taking care, making sure I'm providing for us and supporting our family. And yeah, but I think if yeah, you gotta work for something permanent, because for me at least, the financial gains, the prestige, the notoriety, it's fleeting, right? And I think if we work for to honor God or honor something bigger than ourselves, whatever you believe in, I think it's very important. So I think that, yeah, you got to live. I think it's very important to live by James 1, 2, and 3, or maybe not live by that, but at least have that in the back of our minds. So sorry for the long-winded answer.
Hey, what's up, Austin? Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
A lot of what you said about having a positive outlook on life and mindset in general resonated with me a lot. And that's something I've been trying to work on in my own life a lot recently. And although I've seen improvements, I still have a long way to go. And I think the biggest challenge for me at the moment is consistency, because when things are going well, when I'm having a good day, it's easier for me to have that good mindset and work for a bigger purpose. But it's on the days where I'm tired or I'm having family troubles or whatever might be going on that I think that kind of slips away a bit. And so my question is, do you have any tips or techniques for making sure that you have that mindset every day no matter what is going on?
Yeah, well, thanks for your question. And yeah, I mean, there obviously, those things that come up it's easy to focus on the things that are going wrong. But for me, what's been effective for me is to focus on the things that are going right. Maybe I have a meeting doesn't go as well as I want, but man, I get to I get to go home and see my wife at night. I have food on the table. I have a great place to live. I have the majority of my job is going well. This one thing, yeah, it's not going ideal right now, but I recognize what I need to do to change it. And I think that if when things aren't going as well as we hoped, and that causes us to have the mind not as positive an outlook as we want, I think it's important to focus on the positive. And for me, people, oh man, what's it like? I've lost a lot, right? But I choose to focus on all that I'm so blessed to have. I mean, this may come off the wrong way, but there's about 7 billion people in the world now. Maybe is there over 7 billion, or I don't even know. Yeah. Okay, 7 billion, and a lot of people in the world would do anything to have the life that I do, despite all that I've lost. So I'm just extremely grateful, and I obviously it's put things in perspective for me, because obviously what I went through, obviously I didn't wish that happened. I'm not glad it happened, but it's given me a new appreciation for things, because we realize how temporary things are. And obviously you would hope that things are more permanent than what I've experienced. But yeah, I just look at my life, from a bird's eye view, and I'm like, man, I got it pretty good. Maybe tempting to have that negative outlook on things. It may be tempting to focus on the things that aren't going as I hope, the family trouble. But I'm like, you know what? Like, if I get in a little something with my wife, I'm like, man, I have an amazing wife. Yes, we're in a little tussle, argument, whatever you want to say, right now. But man, I got her. Like, you know what I mean? So I just try to look at things from a perspective of, it's not so much as, man, why isn't this going well? It's, yes, this isn't going as well as I hope it would right now, but I'm so grateful for it. And I'm gonna take some actions to make it go better in the future. So just look at things as, the simple analogy. Look at the glass as half full rather than half empty. So sorry again for the long-winded answer.
Hi, Austin. Thank you for coming today. I just want to give out a Go Blue real quick.
Go Blue.
But
Go Blue.
you mentioned how you were able to encourage and help your teammates throughout that entire process. How are your teammates able to encourage and help you?
Yeah, well, they, yeah, when you spend as much time as you spend with, teammates on a basketball team, an athletic team, or a sorority, fraternity, whatever, like, it almost does become kind of like a fraternity in a way, because it's like when you're with guys like, 4 or 5 hours every day, and you hear stuff in the locker room, and, it's for a whole other conversation altogether. But, yeah, I think, yeah, it's just, yeah, so hopefully I encourage them, and they saw me working as hard as I could, running and sprinting as fast as I could, trying to do the best I could. Hopefully that was inspiring for them. But I think for me, just seeing all of them every day, and it really became like a family to me. And it's just like I can't say exactly what it is, like in what ways they encourage me, just by being there. Like, I mean, it's like your siblings. Yeah, you fight with them. Yeah, you get in arguments with them. But it's like they're your siblings. Like, you love them, and it's the same thing with teammates. It's like, they pushed me to be the best I could be. And there were days when I tried to work as hard as I could every day at practice. But there were days and I wasn't feeling well, or I was missing my family or whatever it may have been. School wasn't going well. But then I got to see all those guys. We're joking around, laughing, and then coach, we do something we shouldn't in practice. We turn the ball over too much, and Coach B would just blow his whistle and just say, "Give me a 30." A 30 is a suicide. You got 30 seconds to run it, and sometimes it wouldn't just be one. And if everyone didn't make it, we'd have to run it again. Everyone would have to run it again. Usually I would be the one that didn't make it because I couldn't run as fast as all my other teammates. But I'm like, hey, you know what? If they're including me in this team, I got to bust my to run as hard as I can. So that because if I miss it, not only do I got to run again, they all got to run again, right? So yeah, I mean, I think just having that camaraderie, those guys in the locker room, you talk about things, and I learned more about some of their lives than I'd care to admit or want to, but it's part of the family, and yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world. So I'm so thankful for Coach Beyond and all that he did for me. And Michigan's a special place, with no offense to Michigan State. Oh, I said I was going to talk about Coach Izzo in my presentation, and there's one thing that I forgot to mention. So I don't know if you guys are any of the Michigan State, maybe some Michigan fans do too. Is it Xavier Henry? I think the freshman was it last year, and Coach Izzo, I mean, he's kind of known for this. Just like he pulls him out of the game and screams in his face, like he gets red in the face. He's got veins coming out of his forehead. You can't question whether the guy cares or not, right? But he only does that because he cares. And I think that something that's easy to do for me, for other people as well, is to get caught up in things that don't concern us. Remember how I mentioned with the Econ 101 deal, focusing on the things over which we have no control instead of focusing on the things over which we have control, like our attitude and our work ethic. When other people do things, that's how they do things. You know what? Coach Beeline coaches a lot different than Coach Izzo does. But both are great coaches, and you can't argue with the success they've had. And also, maybe as a Michigan fan, I shouldn't give praise to Coach Izzo in this regard, but like the guys who play for Coach Izzo have a rare allegiance to him, right? I mean, actually, Russell Bird. Anyone? Any Spartans? No Russell Bird. Remember him? Yeah, he was actually in our wedding. One of my best friends. So yeah, Coach Beano was at our wedding too. I don't know how that went over, having a Spartan in the wedding party. But my point being, again, going back to the whole concept of focusing on the things over which we have no control. There are things that are going to get our attention and distract us, but I think we got to prioritize those things that we have control over rather than the things that may be distracting. So, any other questions from the?
All right, no other questions in the room? Oh, just kidding.
Austin, thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
What is your current role at Domino's, and how long have you been there?
So I've been there a year, full-time a year, as of last, I think it was last Thursday. I think that was my 1 year. Maybe it was Friday. It was Friday. Whatever the 16th was. Or was that Wednesday? No. Okay, so my sisters-in-law, their birthday was on the 23rd. Yeah. Okay, so it was Tuesday. Okay, thank you. Again, yeah, you'd think a Michigan grad could figure that out a little quicker, but yeah, so my current role at Domino's, so I work in franchise development, and I'm finding opportunities for new franchisees to open stores, and trying to build a brand. So the goal is to have 7,500 stores in the U.S. by 2025, and right now we've got about 6,050. So we've got a lot of runway ahead of us. So so we're trying to build about 1,400 stores in the next 5.5 years. So we got a lot of runway ahead of us, a lot of work to do. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I'm helping find opportunities to open new stores, and because it's a good brand to be a part of right now. The average, not to give too much information, but the average franchisee has like 6 stores and is doing quite well. So yeah, yep.
Good. All right. Well, 2 things. First.
Sorry, we're like down to like.
You're not. We're totally fine. None of these people have anywhere to be, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
I need to apologize to you because we call this a lunch and learn, and we had Panera and not Domino's. So I don't know what I was thinking, so I'm sorry.
Okay. I love Panera.
We'll do better when you come back next time.
Yeah.
And second, for everybody in Richland, he did promise a Domino's on Gull Road, so that will be coming soon.
Yep.
You're on record, so.
Yep, it's coming soon.
No, but thank you. On behalf of Kapable, on behalf of Kellogg, thank you. Your message ties greatly back to our K values as a full company. Our mission and vision as a capable ERG, and just even now our growth competencies, right? So having a growth mindset and integrity and all of that. So we appreciate you, we thank you, and we hope to have you back soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you.